Hi everyone, hope you're all very well. Thank you for joining me for our yoga practice. So for our yoga practice today, we're going to do some warm-ups on the floor, just easing out our hips and our back and our shoulders, stretching out our hamstrings. Then we're going to come up to standing and do some standing poses, and then we're going to finish with a moving meditation. So we're going to come to lying. Come down to lying on the floor. So come down lying on your back. Have your knees bent up in a semi-supine position. Just roll your shoulders and make sure your shoulder blades are moving down along your back. Make sure your lower back feels comfortable. Lift your hips and imagine you're bringing them down towards your heels, and then just lower your hips back down onto the floor. And now take a deep breath in. And just let it go. And again, breathing in and letting it go. Now before we begin, we're just going to take a moment to focus on our breath. Allowing ourselves to settle. Allowing ourselves to just yield and soften and relax into the floor. So bring your focus now to the breath and direct the breath down into your belly. Feel your belly rising as you breathe in, falling as you breathe out. Each time you exhale, think softness, think release, think letting go, letting go. And now as we begin to feel ourselves settling and softening and releasing, we're going to draw the knees in. As you draw them in, feel the lower back lengthening. Draw the knees into your chest. On an exhale, releasing back on an inhale. Drawing in on an exhale, release back on an inhale. We do these for a couple of breaths, letting the breath lead your movement. And feel how that's really nice on a lower back that might feel a little stiff. Make sure you keep the shoulders nice and relaxed. From here, we're going to bring the fingers facing forward on the knees and work slowly around the pelvic clock. Thinking of 12 o'clock being the knees right into your chest, and then as you move around down towards 6, feel the lower back arching, and as you come back to 12, feel it flattening. So this is a very nice way to ease out tight lower back, any kind of niggly or tightness in your hips, and then back in the opposite direction. Really nice way to start your practice in a very, very safe way. So a few circles, making sure you go in both directions. Now bring the feet back down onto the floor, hip width apart. Bring the arms down by your side. We're going to think of our upper back. And I want you to sweep the arms up so the fingers are facing the ceiling. Now lift the fingers up, feel the shoulders lifting, and now let the arms heavy, sinking down. And feel how that brings the shoulder blades right down onto the floor. So keeping that feeling of the shoulder blades down on the floor, you're going to bring the arms up overhead. And on an exhale, you're sweeping the arms around back down by your side. So on an in-breath, you're bringing the arms up and overhead. And on an exhale, you're sweeping them back down around by your side. Now it's very much up to you how you practice, and you might find that you like to leave the arms overhead for a couple of breaths, and that's absolutely fine. But always on the exhale, then bring it back down by your side. So always letting the breath lead the movement. And using the exhale to allow the release. The exhale, remember, is the releasing part of the breath. This movement is really nice if shoulders are tight, if upper backs are tight, if you've been sitting at the computer a lot, if you've been digging a lot in the garden. Really nice way to just loosen out the shoulders, loosening out the upper back. So now bring the arms back down by your side. We're going to bring the feet together and the knees together. Let the arms float out to shoulder height. And we're going to come to a lying twist. Very gentle, easy lying twist. So you breathe in with the knees to the center, and on an out breath, let the knees fall to one side and head looks in the opposite direction. Breathing in, come back up to the center, and breathing out to the other side. Again, the movement is slow and fluid, letting the breath lead the movement. So as you begin to relax and the breathing softens, breathing is slowing, so also should the movement be slowing. Nice, fluid, gentle movement. Always think of releasing on the exhale, letting the knees heavy on the exhale, sinking down. Coming back up to the center and then over to the other side. And again, come back up. It's always nice after a twist to lengthen out your back again. So draw the knees in and again give a little bit of a rock side to side. Anytime you're doing a yoga practice, it's really nice to just draw the knees in between poses as often as you like. A really nice, safe way to lengthen out your back. Now let's think about our hamstrings. So again, keep the knees bent. I want you to draw the right knee into your chest. Keep your hands on the back of your thighs and then stretch up into the right heel. Keep the tailbone moving down. So draw the knee into your chest. On an exhale, then lengthen up into the heel. And again, drawing it in and stretching it up. Now point the toes to the ceiling and then into the heel. And feel that stretch right down the back of your calves, right down along your hamstrings. Point the toe and into the heel again. And then I want you to make circles. So pointing the toe towards the ceiling and then circling. So you're mobilizing up your ankle joint and back in the opposite direction. And now let's go to the other side. Draw the left knee in, squeeze it in. Stretch up into the heel. Draw the knee in again. Stretch up into the heel. And again, draw the knee in. And stretching up. And now point the toe to the ceiling. And then back up into the heel. Bring the toes down towards your face. Really feel the stretch right down the back of your leg, down along your hamstrings. Pointing the toe. Stretching into the heel. And now point the toe and circle. So make circles and back in the opposite direction. And now bring the foot back down onto the floor again. Draw the knees in. Give yourself a little bit of a rock, side to side. Now bring the feet down onto the floor and we're going to go into bridge. I want you to roll the shoulders, shoulder blades down your back, palms facing down. Feet are hip width apart. The heel should be in line with your hip bone. If you reach down, you should nearly feel your heels. And now I want you, before we start, to get a little bit of movement into the pelvis. I want you to flatten that lower back. into the floor. And as you flatten the lower back, feel how you're really engaging your pelvic floor and your lower abdominals. So we'll do that a couple of times. And the next time now that you flatten your back into the floor, I want you to lift your hips. As you lift them up, make sure that you're keeping your thighs parallel. We're not thinking about lifting too high now. I just want you to really work on your alignment. Feet are parallel, thighs are parallel. Imagine you're squeezing a ball between your knees. And I want you to imagine as well that you bring your sit bones a little bit closer together. And really feel the strength in that pose. But at the same time, feel the softness. There should be no strain or no effort, just a really strong, solid, stable base. And as you come down one vertebrae at a time. And release. And now again, we're going to flatten the lower back and lift up, lifting up. Make sure your pelvis is completely level. Really work on the thighs being parallel. Knees squeezing that imaginary ball together. Making sure that the legs are strong. And then lowering down. And once more, flatten the lower back, lift the hips, and up you come. When you feel nice and stable, you can stay like this if you like, but if you can, you're going to bring the arms up overhead towards the floor behind. Feel that extra extension in your back. And from this position, keeping the arms here, I want you to see, can you lower down again? One vertebrae at a time. Coming right down, tailbone is the very last to come back to the floor, and then sweep the arms back down by your side. We'll do that once more. Flatten the lower back, lift the hips, up you come. Making sure you feel stable, feet parallel, thighs parallel, squeezing that imaginary ball between your knees. Bringing the arms up overhead. Chin is tucked in towards the chest, back of the neck is long. And from here, lower down, nice and slowly, one vertebrae at a time, coming right down, tailbone the very last to come to the floor, and then sweep the arms around, back down by your side. And again, now to counter that back arch, we're going to draw the knees in to lengthen out the back again, hugging them in, rocking side to side. And from here, we're going to roll over and come on up to kneeling. So we're going to come to tabletop. I want you to really place the hands underneath the shoulders, the knees are underneath the hips, nice flat back, tabletop. And let's come into cat. So I want you to tuck the tailbone under. Always start with the tailbone. Tuck the tailbone under, drawing the belly up into your spine, letting your head hang right down. Then tilting the tailbone, arching the lower back and looking up. And again, tucking the tailbone under, drawing the belly right up into your spine, head hangs down. Tilting the tailbone, arching the lower back and looking up. And once more, tucking under on an exhale. Inhale. And now let the hips back down onto the heels, stretch the arms out into hair. Really feel that lovely extension in your back. You can move a little bit forward and back into it just to feel that nice length coming into your back. So just come forward and back to just really feel a lovely extension in your spine. Stretching out in hare is also how we find the right position for downward dog. So really make sure that you're stretching into the fingers, stretching back into the tailbone. Really nice, good extended hare. And now this is the perfect distance for downward dog. So we're going to come up onto all fours, tuck the toes under, lift your knees and bring your tailbone right back and up into downward dog. Keep the knees bent so that you can really get that extension back and up into the tailbone. Really feel the extension in your back. And now we're going to think about bringing the left heel down towards the ground and then the right. And then the left and then the right. This gives a really good stretch down the back of your calves, the back of your Achilles tendon. And just make sure that you're not rushing it from side to side. And if you're really working at lengthening and stretching out a muscle, when you stretch down into the heel, you should hold it for at least 20 seconds. If you're just pedaling now gently side to side. Nice, slow movement, just easing the legs, easing the calves. And then come back into your downward dog again. And then drop the knees to the floor and stretch back into hare. And now come slowly up. So now we're going to come up to standing. So if you come up to standing, we're going to move into our warrior pose. Step your feet 4.5 to 5 feet apart. Bring your hands into Namaste. And stretch out into the fingers. Stretching into the fingers. Turn the left foot in, 45 degrees, and the right foot completely out. Just check that your heel is in line with your instep. And now I want you to sink that right knee down, sinking it down, keeping your weight directly over your hips, keeping that stretch into your fingers. Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. And now I want you to reach forward and up, and then bring your forearm down onto your thigh. Now don't collapse into it, just let it rest there, and bring the other arm up and over by your ear, stretching into the fingers. Keep breathing, nice, even, gentle breathing. Now engage your core, and from there I want you to lift yourself back up into Warrior 2. And from here we're going to go into Reverse Warrior. So I want you to bring your left hand down onto your left leg and stretch up into the right finger, stretching up. Feeling that really good stretch down the right side of your rib cage. Feel that power in that root chakra, your base chakra, the strength that you need in your thighs. And now back into Warrior 2. And again, reach forward and up. Lay your forearm down. Reach, palm down, reaching into the fingers. Again, keep breathing. Nice, gentle, even breathing. Now you can just check how much you're using your arm by just letting your arm off a little bit, and then just rest it back down. So it should be just resting, you shouldn't be collapsing down. And now engage that core to lift yourself up. Warrior 2 again. And now bring the left hand back down onto your thigh, reach up into the right fingers. And then back into Warrior 2. And now just drop your hands, turn your feet in, turn them forward, and we go to the other side. Now we're going to turn the right foot in at 45, the left foot completely out. Hands again into Namaste. Look down and check that your left heel is in line with the instep of your right foot, and reach into the fingers. Now sink down into the left foot. Now make sure that you power up this back leg. Really reach into the outer edge of it. So you're really lifting that inner arch. Keep breathing. Now reach forward and up. Bring your forearm down onto your thigh. Reach into the fingers. Stretch flank. And again, just check how much are you using that arm. Should be just resting there. Reach into the fingers. Keep feeling that you're reaching into the outer edge of that back foot. Engage the core now as you lift yourself back up into warrior two again. Looking over that left fingers. And now we're going to go into reverse warrior, where we bring the right hand down onto the right thigh. Reach up into the left fingers. Reaching up. Coming back into warrior. Stretch flank, reaching forward and up. Lay your forearm down onto your thigh. Reach into the fingers. Keep breathing. Engage the core. Up we come into warrior two. Looking over the left fingers. Again, several breaths. Then bring the right hand down and reach back into the left fingers. And come back to center. Turn your feet in and work your feet back into the center. So now we're going to come down onto our mat to do a few rounds of our moving meditation. There's two different ways that we can do it depending on how you are sitting back onto your insteps. So I'll show you both ways. Okay, so you come kneeling on your mat, and we're going to start in pose of the child. Now after doing the standing poses, your circulation is really boosted, so when you bring your head down, you may find that, whoa, I can feel a little bit in my head. If you do, you're just going to use a block in between here, where you can just rest your head on it. It's not going to affect the movements in any way. So I'm going to use it for the first one so that you'll see. So we're just going to close down into pose of the child, making sure your shoulders are relaxed, your arms are heavy, just letting everything go. And then on an in-breath, bringing the arms up, overhead, lifting and arching back. Breathing out, coming down into hair. Feeling a lovely back extension. Breathing in, coming up onto tabletop. Breathing out, tuck the toes under, lift your knees, come up into downward dog. Keep the knees soft so you really can feel you can lift right back and up into the tailbone, getting the extension in your back. As you breathe in, drop the knees to the floor. Breathing out, hips back down onto your heels, into hair. Breathing in, draw the hands back along the floor towards your knees as you do, lifting your head and your shoulders, lifting and arching back, and then back down into pose of the child. So the next round I'm going to do without the block. I'm also going to do it where you're not going to have to sit back down onto your heels kind of heavily. So if you just watch now, we're going to start in pose of the child. And then breathing in, instead of sitting back on my heels, I'm going to lift up, lifting and arching back. Breathing out, bring the hips back and stretch the arms out into hair. Breathing in, coming up onto tabletop. Breathing out, tuck the toes under, lift your knees, take yourself up into downward dog. If you like, in this position you can get a few nice stretches down by just pedaling and bringing one heel down and then the other. This is really nice on the backs of the legs, stretching out your calves, stretching out the Achilles tendon. But it's entirely up to you what your body feels you need. Breathing in, you drop the knees to the floor. Breathing out, let the hips back down into hair. On an in-breath now you start drawing the hands back, but as you do, come up to kneeling, lifting the arms, lifting and arching back, and then back down into pose of the child. So we do another round. Breathing in, lifting up, lifting and arching back. Breathing out, stretching out into hair. Now maybe let's take a few breaths in here. Stretching into the fingers, really getting that extra length. Several breaths. Feeling the lovely stretch in the shoulders. And now on the next in-breath, coming up onto tabletop. Breathing out, tuck the toes under, lift the knees, come up into downward dog. And let's stay in downward dog for a few breaths. And let's stretch out the legs, stretching down into one heel, then switching and stretching into the other. Into one heel, and then into the other. And staying back into your downward dog again. And now drop the knees to the floor. Let your hips back onto your heels into hair. As you breathe in now, drawing the hands up, but as you do come up into a kneeling position, lifting and arching back, and then back into pose of the child. If you prefer, you can let your arms stretch out. You can see exactly what it is that your body needs. The whole idea of our moving meditation is that it allows our body to soften, to release. It allows our mind to become quiet. And it allows our breathing to be nice and slow and deep. And remember that it's the breath leads the movement. So, how you do your moving meditation is entirely up to you. Following the pose with your breath, staying for a few breaths in each of the poses, the choice is yours. So enjoy your practice, and after a number of rounds of your moving meditation then, it would be nice to just come to lying in Shavasana and just focusing on your breath for a few minutes.